Hey, this is a Funhouse stage tutorial for Mickey Mousecapade. We're going to start by doing an overview of the stage, so I'm just going to let it play out uninterrupted and just kind of briefly go over a couple things. To start, there's two routes in this stage, and this is the first one where we enter this room first and pick up this power-up. The reason you pick up this power-up in this route is because it makes the stage much easier to handle in most situations. There's a lot of enemies, it's easier to clear them out of your way. It is slightly slower to grab this first, but it will minimize the amount of resets you see. Now, Mickey and Minnie both have their own ability to shoot, but there's a second chest later that we'll be getting that will give Minnie her power-up. So right now, only Mickey can shoot. And as you can see, it's already much easier to have this ability. And you'll see me taking damage. Sometimes intentional, sometimes not. It's okay to take damage, since you will be taking a death warp at the end of this stage. And we're going to be coming up on a boss here. Again, having the shot does make this a bit easier to handle, as you'll see. Clear out of the boss. So one thing to note is, you'll probably hear me say this a few times, is the bosses will kill you in one shot. So you have to be extremely careful when you're approaching a boss. Alright, so now we're going to be going for this chest that should contain Minnie's power up, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll contain an enemy and it'll kill you, so usually results in a reset. But obviously it's a power up here, and we'll be taking the death in this room. When you take a death here, it actually places you in the bottom of the room, which completely eliminates the entire backtrack of the stage. Puts you right near the beginning here. And that's it. So now we'll do more of an in-depth room by room breakdown. Alright, so before we get started, I want to go over a couple basics and some movement stuff real quick, just so we can kind of get that out of the way, and so there's an understanding of how the movement is the way that it is. So obviously Minnie is following Mickey throughout the whole game. In this stage, pirate ship in the castle, you were actually able to sync Minnie and Mickey by holding up or down. So you want to like keep them together as often as possible for a couple reasons. One is when you exit a room, Minnie needs to be behind you, and the closer she is, the faster you exit the room. The second being is when you're jumping on ladders, it's easy for her to get desynced and fall behind or get stuck on the ladder or something, which will lose you a lot of time. So what you want to do in most cases is you're going to be holding diagonal a lot instead of just left or right. So if I hold right here, Minnie would not immediately follow Mickey for some reason. So she kind of just waits, and there's like a bit of a space between them. So what you want to do here is hold up and right when you start. So as soon as the stage loads and starts, you're holding upright, and it'll keep Minnie at this distance. And then right before I jump onto the ladder, I sync by holding up. So sync jumping means that you're syncing your characters together and then jumping. This will eliminate the chance that Minnie will get stuck on something. So I'm just gonna press play so you guys can kind of just see what's going on here. Alright, so you can already tell there that I like grouped them together. I think I can do like a frame advance here. Right, yeah, here we go. See, so I'm holding up here and then I jump. And it kind of keeps them pretty close together. Me climbing the ladder here. They're already pretty close. And then you'll see me group again since I'm waiting for the snakes here. There you go. So again, I'm holding diagonal when I start. And then when I exit the ladder, so actually exiting the ladder is kind of, again, this seems like I'm probably going into too much detail here, but this is just important to think about. When you exit this ladder here, you're going to be holding the cardinal direction and then immediately holding, like I would hold up and left, I think. Even down and left would work, as long as it's a diagonal. It just keeps Minnie close. If you hold diagonal too early, Minnie will get stuck. So it's not something you really have to worry about. Also, with these snakes in this room, it's random where they spawn. I actually get really lucky here and don't have to wait for them. But I feel like most of the time you do have to wait for them. And I think they're frame based, so depending on when you start up the console and then hit start will depend where they spawn. It's, I think, like most NES games. So let's just move on. I'm grouping here, and then as soon as I exit this ladder, I'm holding right, and then I hold diagonal to keep Minnie close to me. Okay, right here, see, you can see by the space here that I'm not holding a diagonal. And the reason for that is because I'm actually leaving the stage by holding left. So I'm going to grab this chest and then immediately hold down and left. When I'm holding down and left, they automatically sync because they pass each other. So now we're in this room. I'm going to sync jump onto this ladder. I'm going to take damage here, which again I was explaining earlier is okay. You kind of need to just expect to take damage in some rooms, and this is one of them. Like, the spider is obviously just in your way. You cannot avoid them. So, not a big deal. You're again leaving this ladder cardinally and then holding a diagonal immediately to keep Minnie pretty close to me. You don't want to shoot too much either. Try to minimize the amount of shots because it can lag a bit. I think you can only do 2 with Mickey anyway. So, but I think just a general rule, you don't want to like spam shots because you can only have 2 to 3 on screen at once. Okay, so for this room, I should actually go over this. So this guy here, this is probably as far left as he can be where you can jump over him. So if he's any further left, he's gonna like trigger his animation where he just constantly jumps. If you trigger him on the way to the chest, then you have to avoid him on the way out. So like here, if he's like here or anywhere else, just try to jump over him if you can. Sometimes he'll be near the chest and you can't. So just do your best to try to like gauge that, but to minimize the amount of interaction with him, just try to jump over him like on your way to the chest. And when you're leaving, you can just walk past him. You'll see that here. And holding down left after I get the key to sync them, so you just walk right under him. We're gonna do a sync jump onto this ladder, and then immediately hold right. But for this particular ladder, I find that sometimes it's easier to get stuck on this one. I don't know why. So you can just hold right if you want to be safe. Get this chair out of the way. Just all you gotta do is shoot him. You can just always walk through that room and just shoot. Now for this room, it's random whether you take damage or not, depending on where this bird poops. I think he poops on me here, so you'll see me just take damage, and then I kind of walk a bit so I can jump over the boss here. This guy does two bars of damage, so you don't really want to get hit by him if you can help it, but it's not the end of the world if you do. Where I jump here is like where you always want to jump, no matter what pattern this guy gives you, because you're either going to get hit or you're not. And if you don't get hit, you can just kind of jump over this guy. I think in the other Funhouse video that I'm for the other route, I think he misses me. So if you want to see what that looks like, you just watch the other video. But I take damage here, and then I walk a bit before I jump over him, because you want to make sure you clear him. You don't want to jump immediately. So just watch that. So you take damage and then just walk by. Not a big deal. Alright, so for rooms like this, this is where you expect to just take damage. And one other thing I'm going to note here, actually, is like when you enter a room, not every enemy seems to spawn right away. So as you can see, this is like the first couple frames this room loads. Actually, quite a few frames it looks like. And then you'll see the other broomstick spawn here. But anyway, so sometimes it makes it a little weird when you're trying to react to the room, and you'll see like an enemy's not right away when you enter. It'll just like spawn out of nowhere. All right, so for the broomsticks, they're easily the most annoying enemies to kill. You can only shoot them in the actual broomstick. Like this whole area is off limits. You can't. It doesn't do anything. So you'll see me here trying to handle this room, but I take damage, and sometimes you just have to like commit to just taking damage. There's nothing you can do. See, I just took damage and just walked through it. It's like whatever. It's like it's too hard to handle with enemy placement. Now, this room I was able to handle it pretty well. I got pretty lucky, but like in most cases you're gonna just take damage in this room too. So I was able to get a couple good shots off and kill all 3 enemies. And here's an example of a desync. So you see where Minnie's at. And this was because I jumped off the ladder just a hair too early. So this is a good example of just seeing like what happens when you're not synced. And just jumping off ladders in general is hard. Like when I jumped, I kind of desynced a little bit. It's hard to do that. Again, it's a lot of D-pad maneuvering. So I jumped off here, and then as you can see, I'm holding left, and Minnie's just kind of just standing there. And then I realize that, and then I try to hold down, and I think I hold diagonal to try to get her to catch up. So when you hold diagonal, she starts to move towards you because you're holding down. So I kind of just avoid this thing, and you'll see that she's behind now. See this gap? Now when you go to exit this room, you're going to see how much time you're losing. See, Minnie has to catch all the way up before you exit the room. So that's why your sync movement's important. It adds up quite a bit over the course of this stage. Okay, I didn't really say much about that last room, but I mean, you're just trying to get through the rooms at this point. Just, you can kill the enemies because you have your power up. Same here, try to kill this broom if you can. Alright, so the boss. So you're going to want to kill this guy if you have your power up. Just kill and get him out of the way so he doesn't block you on the way out. So the wizard, as soon as you get up on this ladder, you're going to immediately start shooting. You'll most likely take damage from something. And you're just going to want to keep shooting, and then you're going to want to abuse iframes to walk through the wizard. If you touch the wizard, you die instantly. It doesn't matter how much health you have. So it's important that you're taking damage from the projectiles instead. So we'll watch the room real quick. Another thing to note is you don't have to bring Minnie with you up here. So just don't worry about desyncing Minnie. Just focus on trying to get up here to get the key. So I took damage, I shot a couple times, and I'm going to take damage from another projectile. You need to take a hit closer to the wizard to walk by him. So when I took damage here, I'm going to continue shooting as I walk by. See, I got a couple shots there. We'll watch it again just so you can see. A couple shots here, taking a hit, and then I think I get a couple more shots. 1, 2, 3. So I'm jumping through to get this key. Okay, so now that I've gotten the key, I'm going to turn around and finish them off. And you don't want to be probably any more right than this. If you're like off this table at all, you're going to die. Like, this wizard's hitbox will definitely hit you. So this is a pretty safe spot. So you'll see me just jump and hit the wizard on the last hit and just continue walking. Again, Minnie's down here waiting. Just hold diagonal as you're walking out. That's it. Another sync jump here. My health situation is really good here, so as you're going through the stage, you want to continue to monitor your health. This is exactly pretty much where you would want to be. So now you can start taking some intentional damage. So I didn't mention this earlier, but the chandeliers actually take two bars of damage. So if you have this much health, you want to take a hit from the chandelier. Anytime you're taking damage in this game, it costs 30 frames. I think the animation is exactly 30 frames. So by taking a hit from something that does 2 bars of damage, you're saving a half second. So again, this is very optimal stuff now, but that's just something that you should always keep in mind. Like if your health is really good, you know you can take some extra damage and take damage from like chandeliers and stuff. I usually save them for after I interact with the boss, just to make sure, because I had some pretty good rooms. So like I didn't take as much damage as probably the average funhouse. So just monitor your health and kind of just use your best discretion. So I waited here because I didn't want to take damage in here. I wanted to take damage here from this guy. Not a big deal, but it's just this room can be kind of trolly. So if you're taking extra damage in this other room, you know, maybe it's not worth it. I feel like it's just always worth taking damage here if you can, and then maybe in the next room. One thing I will mention with spiders, you can actually walk under them without taking damage, and sometimes you can't. I don't know what dictates that. It's kind of a gamble at that point. So if you're like, you know what, I just want to walk under the spider, you can just walk under him if you have the health to afford it. If you don't take a hit, then it's whatever, you know. Just keep that in mind. It's like I'd say it's 50-50 whether you get hit or not, but I don't know what dictates it. I don't know if it's a movement animation or what, but just remember that it's a gamble. I jumped here on purpose just to take a hit. Alright, it's the last room. So it's nice to have an extra bit of health here so you can just damage boost through one of these guys. When you get to the chest here, you're either going to get the power up or you're going to get the troll. I'll go over that after this breakdown, but what to do here. But you can actually reset this room and re-enter it if you want to. So just take damage here, walk past the spider, get your power up, and then immediately take a death. And it's going to put you down here in this bottom room. So now, as soon as you spawn, you're just going to hold down and left. And that's going to group you with Minnie. You'll be synced as you're exiting the room immediately, see? And continue holding that diagonal. And now that you have your extra shot, like you'll only have to shoot once here, you'll see Minnie shoots as well. And now you guys both have a shot, and it makes the rest of this game much easier. And that's pretty much it for the breakdown. Alright, so just gonna go over like safe chest farming. So when you're starting out, if you're trying to really minimize resets, this is like kind of a safe way to do it. So I just kind of recorded a clip here of like, so if you're just trying to be really safe, you have 3 things of health here. You can actually kill these spiders by letting them fall and then just shooting them a couple times, and they'll get out of your way. And then here, as you can see, is the troll chest. So you take damage. Sometimes you don't. Like, it just depends, I think, how you hit the chest. But you can actually shoot that guy and kill him. So if you get the troll chest, you can actually leave. And if you're really low on health, you can actually farm health from these things. Sometimes there's cake in these. I don't know if I get one here. You can just keep re-entering the room and see like there's a cake there. You can just grab it. Again, this will just minimize your resets if you're just not ready. and then I got the power up now. So sometimes you'll get stuck in an infinite, and then obviously this is slower, but it's just to minimize your resets. So that pretty much covers this portion of the funhouse. I'm going to do a second video for funhouse without the early chest, and just go over that, and you can kind of just make your decision on whether you want to go with the early shot route, which is much easier like this, or just go for the really hard route.